Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL expert FPL Salah to preview game week 14. Abdul, it's been a while. Obviously, we missed the last game week. How have you been, my friend? How have the last two game weeks been?
Yeah, they've been good, Jack. I've had green arrows, but like not huge green arrows. And from a game week 10 wildcard, I was at 1.6 million. I'm now at 900k. So it has progressed, but slow and steady. I'm hoping to, as I said, I think I say this almost every week. I'm still waiting for that one big game week, just to kind of change the season. Not had that yet.
Let's have a quick look back at your team from the last game week. Obviously, viewers, you can see the title. Two transfers have already been made. We're going to get onto that very, very quickly. But first of all, we have to look back at Abdul's team from game week 13 to understand what moves he may have made. A pretty solid green arrow, you've got to say. Yeah. And you got unlucky as well, looking at Eze in particular, who I presume is going to be one of your transfers out. Overall, not a bad game week, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good score. It was comparatively got like a decent sized green arrow. However, I did bring in Eze this week for Matoma. So I had two free transfers and I was going to do Matoma to Mbuemo and cash to either one of Caldwell or Pinnock. The reason why I went for Eze instead was because I had the two free transfers. And once I bring Mbuemo in, that front seven for me, I don't see me changing that front seven up until the foreseeable future. So I knew that was set. So I thought I could take a little kind of punt here. And on top of that, you had Luton at home, so it was a good kind of I don't usually make these kind of short-term moves, but I think the opportunity was there for me that week. And also I wasn't really sure which one of Caldwell and Pinnock to bring in. I was really favouring Caldwell, so in a sense that did kind of work out for me because Caldwell was benched, and now I'm kind of really uncertain about his minutes going forward.
Okay.
So now I've decided to go for Pinnock, and my two transfers that I made this week were Eze and Cash to Pinnock and Mbuemo.
There we go. That is the reveal. I will say before we get onto those and kind of see how that works in your team and ask you why you did those moves as early as you did. First of all, guys, I do want to say that currently there is a Black Friday sale. It's 30% off on Fantasy Football Hub and 30 days free right now. Black Friday, not going to last much longer, so get involved in that. Link down below. Everything you're about to see in this video, all the tools, my team, the stats, the AI predicted points, AI transfers, etc., is all available if you sign up. It's a very good deal, the best one we've had since the season started. Okay, my friend, without further ado, let's get into the team. For the upcoming game week. And the first thing to do is obviously to put in those two moves. So yeah, tell us, why did you make those two moves when you did?
These moves were going to be planned for me for this week anyway, but I just thought now with Eze injured, I know I'm definitely going to have to get rid of him. With Cash, I knew I was going to get rid of him as well. And Mbuemo's price was rising and Cash's price was falling. So Mbuemo's already risen once. He might rise again.
Yeah.
I think Cash is definitely going to fall. So there was a danger of me being priced out. I could have still waited a day or two, Jack, but I just thought Brentford haven't got any midweek fixtures. So we've got the type, likes of Champions League, Europa League, but Brentford haven't got any fixtures. So, and I've got a full playing bench there as well. So for me to make those early transfers and for that to backfire, I would have to have at least 2 or 3 injuries in my starting 11 to for that to actually backfire. So I think the risk was really minimised this week for the free transfers. So I just went for it. I knew 100% those were the moves I was going to make. And then I just done it. So I thought there was no point in waiting.
I guess that is kind of unlike you a little bit in that normally you are very patient. But yeah, as you say, the reasoning makes sense. It's very unlikely these players will get injured or things will change midweek because they don't have midweek fixtures.
Yeah.
And if you're losing that much money and you're going to do them anyway, you had them planned from last week as well, really, then yeah, it looks good. Talk to us about Pinnock, because he is one that's been in kind of no teams, I would say, so far this season. Why have you gone for him? And Mbuemo's obvious, let's be honest, but Pinnock is one that is perhaps a bit more unknown. He's not been in many teams this season. But for both of those players, can you explain to the viewers why you've gone for those?
Yeah, firstly, Mbuemo, the fixtures are great in the next 3, or you can say the next 4. And his underlying numbers, Jack, have been absolutely phenomenal. He's only behind Haaland and Salah for the expected goals involvement, and he's actually underperformed according to his stats, so he's actually unlucky not to have more returns. He's absolutely nailed to start. Plays 90 minutes every game. He's one of only 2 players that hasn't been subbed off yet during the league. That's him and Bruno Fernandes.
Wow, that is a great stat.
Yeah, and he's on penalties, and just during this kind of fixture pile up, he's exactly the type of player you want. So I think obviously with Mbemo for me that was always going to happen. I was actually even a bit kind of not scared, but I was a bit nervous not having him against Arsenal because I thought
Yeah,
he is the type of player that could score against anyone. He nearly did,
yeah,
with his shot which Rice cleared off the line. And then Pinnock, for me is like so the defenders below like the 5 million mark it's really like a really slim pickings. So for me, it came down to Caldwell and Pinnock, and the reason for that is because they both rotate really well with Gahey, who's in my team. So I've got Gabriel and Saliba there, who I kind of plan to play almost every week.
mhm.
Um, Maybe the odd week I'll bench Gabriel. It looks like he's going to be benched or one of Arsenal's tougher fixtures. But Pinnock and Caldwell rotate really well with Gahey, and it's a really good rotation all the way up until like game week 22. And the reason why I went for Pinnock in the end was because I thought he is totally nailed. He's one of the most nailed players in that team. And he has actually the third highest expected goals amongst defenders as well. So he's got that bit of goal threat.
Okay.
And Brentford are I'd say a mid-table defensive team. And they've got Luton at home this week. So I just thought, it was a good transfer to make. Just kind of touching on game week 18 as well, Jack, because I know
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you about this because
yeah.
currently, with both Brentford players that you have in your team that you're bringing in, and then Haaland as well, you're down to 12. Well, is that a concern for you?
Well, with that team, even with the team I've got now, without making any transfers, I'll have 11 players
Yeah,
for game week 18. So running up to that, I could possibly make some transfers. I could possibly even do, a Pinnock to Paul Torres in game week 18. When Aston Villa have got, they've got a good fixture. I can't remember who they have though.
let's have a look. Let's have a look on the fixture.
Sheffield United at home, they've got, yeah. I remember they'd have a good
Yeah,
fixture. So
very
that
good
was
fixture.
the plan in the back of my head was, getting rid of Pinnock for Paul Torres or Konsa, and having a better defender there. But I could even keep all three of those players like Mbemo, Pinnock, and Haaland, for that game week 18, because we do know that there's a good chance that Brentford are going to have a double game week as well as Man City in game week 21, 22.
Yeah.
Although with the Brentford, they haven't got the best double game week. Crystal Palace away and Man City away. So Pinnock is disposable for game week 18. Whereas in Mbemo you probably want to keep.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I guess people would say, "Oh, is it really worth bringing a player that's is going to blank?" But you have to look at the next 4 fixtures. I think sometimes in FPL we do look a little bit too far in advance. And as you're saying, that the rotation for you works out with Gay. And is to be fair, Pinnock is a player that I think I might be bringing in this week as well. I don't know. I like the Brentford defense, and I've got the 4 game week prediction on screen right now, ranking the best defenders over the next 4 game weeks under 5 million, as you mentioned, and Pinnock comes in 4th. Two of the players ahead of him, Gabriel, who you have, Tsimikas, who is one that I want to hear your thoughts on as well, because he's obviously risen in price a couple of times. You don't have him. Is he in your thoughts at all?
No, I mean I did consider bringing Tsimikas back in, which is quite funny because I just got rid of him a few weeks ago. But the thing is, I mean, he's a great option this week, but the way the fixtures are kind of piling up, Jack, he's going to miss it, 1 or 2 games at least.
Yeah.
Well, not at least. I'd say 1 or 2 games he'll miss. Ahead of Gomez. I think from what I've heard as well, Gomez is back fit, and we've already seen Klopp play Gomez in the left back position. So yeah, it just wasn't. I mean, there was no. I don't see the the point in bringing in the player who I know is going to be rested in that fixture pile up. I want to bring in like the players I'm bringing in now. During this kind of festive period, are going to be nailed players, or almost nailed, as you could get. And I think that's what you kind of need to do, during this kind of December period. Having too many rotationists, can really bite you.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's one of the mistakes that I make every season, and it's the reason why I don't ever do particularly well in the festive period. You got to remember, and I'm saying this to myself more than anyone else, that there are 8 game weeks to come in this period. The thing that you mentioned that quite early on here about Mbemo having played every minute is so vital. Yeah. Pinnock as well. He's going to play every game unless they get injured. These are the exact sort of players that you want. Yeah. Yes, they blank in 18, but Tsimikas will probably blank in one of 15, 16, 17. It doesn't really matter, which is, I guess, what you're saying.
Just one thing on that. So what I meant to say was Mbemo and Bruno are the only 2 attackers who
Okay.
haven't been subbed off. Obviously, with goalkeepers and defenders, they play
Yes.
the game, but the only two attackers who haven't been subbed off yet.
Of course. Yeah. But
Yeah,
which still is
yeah, yeah. It's an amazing stat.
an
Like
amazing stat.
from Wembley, especially.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, just maybe you should have predicted it. I don't know. But yeah, fair play. He's having a great season, and if he continues to play every minute, then I mean, let's just look at his fixtures. We know he's a great pick anyway. But yeah, they look a bit too enticing not to go for, and he's just going to keep rising and rising in price as well.
Yeah.
All right, I want to ask you about budget midfielders now. You have Palmer in your team. You've gone for Burma, who I think is pretty nailed on. Let's talk about Palmer and Gordon as two potential replacements for the likes of Diaby and Bowen.
Yeah.
Because I think that, again, like I ask you every week, but that slot is the most contentious one. What
Yeah.
would you be doing in those situations?
I mean, the thing is, like before yesterday's game, and I get Fulham and Wolves, I would have said Palmer, but now Hwang might be on penalties,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And he's. I mean, if he's on penalties, I mean, before last game week, we kind of thought Kuna was on penalties. He was on the pitch. Apparently, they had a lot of discussion before the penalty, and Hwang took it. So some people are saying, I don't know, maybe Hwang took it just in that game because he won the penalty. But I think we kind of have to at least give him like a 50% chance of being on penalties now.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is, then I would say, Hwang's probably maybe just as good or slightly better than Palmer because there's only 0.3 million between them now in price, between Hwang and Palmer. And Hwang's on penalties. And, they got, after Arsenal in Game Week 14, they've got quite a good set of fixtures, for the kind of medium term. And honestly, he's got a higher goal threat than Palmer as well. Like his non-pen XGI is higher than Palmer. So he's got a much better goal threat, from open play. So he's kind of thrown his hat into the ring. I mean, with Gordon and Palmer, Gordon's obviously got the much better stats, but I don't think his minutes are as secure as Palmer's. He's not on penalties, and he is, I think, around about 0.6 million more expensive. So it really depends how much money you have, but I think at the moment I would rank, Palmer and Hwang and then Gordon.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, right now I'd probably put Palmer and Hwang like kind of, I guess, equal, honestly, because Hwang's goal threat is a lot better than Palmer's. And he's played 90 minutes in the last 5-6 games now, and with Neto out, he's and if he's on that's if he's on penalties. If he's the main taker, then he is very, very much worth consideration.
I mean, this is the thing. I've got again the 4 game week prediction of points for midfielders under 7.5 million on screen, and Hwang is there, but he's quite low down. Although I will say that at this time we're not sure 100%. Whether or not he's going to be on penalties. That's been slightly included, but when you have Palmer there, who we know is on penalties, that's obviously going to bump him up. That's up to your own kind of thinking and intuition as to whether you think Hwang will be on penalties. If he is, he would be up there with Palmer and Gordon, you'd suspect. So yeah, a really interesting one. Apart from that, any sort of long-term issues that you're thinking in your team? Just positions, players that you're not really happy with. I guess I'm kind of speaking a little bit about Areola, who continues to disappoint, but anything else?
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean this is the thing. Like that front seven that I've got now with after my transfers is a template, front seven. But if I mean by template, I mean like when you look on Twitter and with engaged managers, right? And honestly, I don't see me touching that front seven. Unless one of them get injured, for at least game week like 21, 22. Again, I think if I make any transfers, it'll be, in defence or, I probably could finally, look at getting rid of Areola, in the next few weeks, quite possibly. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, I'm really happy with this team at the moment.
Sure thing.
Front seven especially. I'm happy with the double Arsenal defence. Arsenal have got they've conceded the least goals. They've got the best expected goals conceded, and they've kept the most clean sheets. They've got a rock solid defense this season, which is kind of on the other side of things. They've been quite, but they're actually ranked 10th for non-pen XG, so they haven't been as good going forward, but amazing at the back. So just overall, really happy with the team, Jack. And yeah, I've not really got much plans past the next 2 or 3 game weeks really. I just think I'll see how it goes. I mean, there's bound to be, in this period, I guess 1 or 2 injuries, which will, throw the amongst division. So let's see.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a pretty nice position to be in, where you're not sure in game week 14, where you're gonna use future transfers. Before we end, Just a quick word on Son, because I've seen quite a few people saying that, well, I mean, to be fair, he is underperforming his price tag right now. I don't think we can argue with that. You'd expect more returns from a 9.7 million midfielder.
Yeah.
He's blanked in the last 3 games, I believe.
Mhm.
But is it due to perhaps a lack of viable alternatives, or is it that you just expect him to come good as to why he's not even close to being in your thoughts to transferring out?
I mean, after after that Aston Villa game last week, I mean, he's going nowhere for me. I mean, he could have easily had a hat trick that game.
Okay.
He had two, he had 3 disallowed goals in total. One of them was like well offside, but I mean, 2 of them were really close.
Yeah.
He had a few chances. I mean, another day, he's got a double-digit haul. So for me, he's actually absolutely going nowhere. I mean, Spurs always aren't going to be as good kind of going forward without Maddison, but that's not to say they're not going to score. We know how Ange Postecoglou likes to play football. They're going to attack. They're going to, every any game they play, even against City, they're not going to sit back. So I'm happy with Son. I know Spurs still haven't had a penalty, but I do think he is going to be the penalty taker as well, and he's going to be the main source of goals. So yeah, for me, he's going nowhere.
There we go. That is going to do it for this one, guys. Once again, if you want to get involved with your own team and use any of the tools that I've shown in this video that we've talked about, the predicted points, the My Team tool in general, whatever it is, the stats that you've seen in this one, this is the best time to sign up other than before the season starts. 30% off right now in a Black Friday sale and 30 days free. You've got to do it. If you don't do it now, you'll never do it. Trust me, it's worth it. Okay, Abdul, thank you very much. As always, my friend, good luck to all of you in the next game week, and we will see you with the next game week preview.